And we are live, as it says here. All right. Welcome, YouTubers. I'm Jack Neary, and this is Shot of Jack. What we'll be talking about this week on Shot of Jack is we'll be talking about the NFL draft. Right? So if your team had a bad year this past season, your Bengals, your Raiders, your Cardinals, right? You get an opportunity to go get somebody out of college football and hopefully do better the next year. That's the goal of the draft, right? It takes place April 25th, right? That's this Thursday. 7 p.m. is the start. You'll be able to watch it on ABC, I believe ESPN, NFL Network will be doing coverage of it, and it's in Nashville, Tennessee. That's a new location this year. I believe they usually hold it in New York, but they're starting to switch up spots and do their best to move around. That way, other fan bases get chances, to see their teams represented and possibly draft a player that they're very interested in. Let's take a look at this. Okay, I got a mock draft the other day off of CBS. We all know the Arizona Cardinals are a mess. Okay, they fired their offensive coordinator last year, right? They gave Byron Leftwich the job. We all remember Byron Leftwich from Marshall being carried down the field, right? And he led his team to victory. He's a coach now. He's an offensive coordinator, and Arizona drafted a quarterback last year. They drafted Josh Rosen, and I don't know if they gave him the best tools to succeed last year. I know that Arizona's offensive line was disastrous. I think that's one of the best words to describe what they were. An aging Larry Fitzgerald. You had a couple rookie wide receivers look okay throughout the season, but they didn't give them much. And David Johnson, they didn't give the ball to a lot. They didn't have any imagination in their play calling. They're a mess. Okay? Arizona last year, to block Miami from drafting him, because we all kind of thought, dating back to last year, that the Dolphins were going to draft Josh Rosen. Adam Gase, their former coach, was very high on him. Okay, so Arizona moved up, and here's what they gave up. They moved up from 15, okay, in a deal, right? They gave up the 3rd round and 5th round picks and got nothing. They had a terrible season, right? So you gave up your 3rd and your 5th round picks, and you got Josh Rosen. And now you don't think that he's your answer. And Arizona mock drafts everywhere are saying that Kyler Murray is going to be drafted. And maybe he is a better quarterback and more suited for their new coach, Cliff Kingsbury. Maybe he is. But you didn't give Josh Rosen much to work with. Have you seen enough from Josh Rosen? When I compared Josh Rosen last year, I hearken back to the old quarterback who played for Detroit. I thought he reminded me a lot of Joey Harrington. Okay, Joey Harrington was a phenomenal quarterback in college at Oregon University. And, he was okay in the NFL. He wasn't great, but Joey Harrington, wasn't given an opportunity as well. And I feel like that Josh Rosen could be a good quarterback in the right system. Why wouldn't you want to build around a guy who knows offenses? Josh Rosen's no dummy, and he was better than decent at UCLA. If it were me, I'd stick with Josh Rosen. I would draft the best available guy to help Josh Rosen. Okay, in the NFL, you have a rule. Okay, you get your quarterback, then you get an offensive tackle to protect him, and then you get him a wide receiver. If there's no offensive tackles that you can take, then you get yourself the wide receiver. It's very simple, right? You need to have a guy for him to throw to. An aging Larry Fitzgerald isn't necessarily a number 1 anymore. I think Arizona's going to take Kyler Murray, and he's mocked everywhere as number 1, and he decided not to turn down the Oakland A's offer and proceed with an NFL career. and he's probably going to be a really good quarterback. All I know about him right now is that he's definitely oversized. He's definitely undersized. Kyler Murray is super, super undersized. The way everything tried last year and draft another, like, if your running back got, the Redskins aren't going to draft another running back this year. They drafted a running back last year. Work with what you took. They haven't even scratched the surface on what Josh Rosen can do, and they're trashing him. Anyway, I think Arizona is going to end up taking Kyler Murray number one. In college, he was a 71% thrower, which is above the 65 mark that you want to be at as a college quarterback. He's super athletic, single-handedly gave Oklahoma a bit of a comeback chance against Alabama last year. Kyler Murray is a great talent, but I think it's very unfair, and you're sending the wrong signals as an organization if you're just going to scrap Rosen. Up next, you have San Francisco's going to take Nick Bosa. San Francisco's going to take Nick Bosa because he's the best available player. You can argue that it's either him or Quinnen Williams from Alabama, who's the next best available player. But Nick Bosa is a generational talent, and he's natural, right? So regardless of time in the gym or work ethic, he's a natural defensive end. He can naturally get after the quarterback. San Francisco already has a quarterback. They need to help out their defense. Okay, so I think they'll take Nick Bosa, and I think that's a good draft pick. They don't need a quarterback. They have Garoppolo. Up third, you have the Jets, another team with a quarterback. You got Josh Allen. He's a kid out of Kentucky. He can play multiple positions. He's an edge rusher. Josh Allen's a really good athlete. He changes the game. I don't think he's quite as gifted as Nick Bosa, but Nick Bosa is injury prone. So maybe Josh Allen is a better pick there. If it were me, I'd probably take Quinnen Williams there. He's a defensive lineman who really demands two players. He demands a lot of attention. He's a huge man. And I know that Josh Allen is more of a Swiss Army knife, but you're getting a guy that's a B+ at a lot of things that he does. And I think with Quinnen Williams, you're getting an A+ at one thing he does. So it all depends on team demands. I want to go back and talk about the Kyler Murray thing again real quick. If Kyler Murray gets drafted to the Arizona Cardinals, that's really when the draft begins. Because you know that Arizona is going to try to get back their 3rd and 5th round picks. They need to get something back for Rosen. Whether it's, do they get the Giants to bite on them? Do they get I'm not sold on Tampa Bay's quarterback situation? Do the Redskins, does Gruden bring him in? Is he somewhat, does Rosen kind of remind you a little bit of Cousins, and you're still getting him on a rookie contract? Remember, they didn't dislike Kirk Cousins. They disliked the contract that he was going to demand. Kirk Cousins moved the ball down the field, but they didn't think he was worth the value that he was asking for on the market. So if you got another Kirk Cousins, Josh Rosen in this case, on a rookie contract, Washington can almost steal a player there. And Washington would be giving up their 15th pick, and I'm sure Arizona would be more than happy to get a Kyler Murray and then whoever was best available at 15. But I don't know. We'll go back and we'll revisit that after the draft. Up 4th on the docket, the Raiders. The Raiders are on the clock. They have the Raiders drafting Rashawn Gary out of Michigan University. Look, Rashawn Gary's a great talent. Michigan's a phenomenal school. If you're ever up in the area, go visit the campus. It's great, right? It's phenomenal looking campus. I don't think Rashawn Gary is the best available here. I don't, because with what the writer wrote on CBS, Quinnen Williams of Alabama would be the best available. They have Quinnen Williams falling all the way to 5. I think Rashawn Gary's another one of these Swiss Army knives like Josh Allen, and I don't necessarily think that he does an A+ job at everything or an A+ job at anything. Quinnen Williams does. He locks down your line. If I were the Raiders, I would want a player to be great at one thing walking into my facility. I don't want a player being good at a couple things. I need you to do one thing. You know, isn't it New England Patriots football? Right? They say, do your job. I want you to be really good at one job walking into my office. Maybe that's just me. You know, and by the way, the Raiders have a TV personality, ex-coach TV personality in John Gruden, and then Mike Mayock is a TV personality as their general manager. Now, that's not, saying that he can't do a good job, but this is your first time not commenting on what others have done in this draft up to the point. The hot seat is much different than commenting on others that are in that same seat. I think the Raiders are going to go rogue here, and I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. I mean, no one is at this point. The Raiders are dismal. They don't have a great direction. But I think they're going to take something like Rashawn Gary. Whether it is Rashawn Gary, they have their do they take an offensive tackle? They've been trying to shore up the line. Do they get another wide receiver? I don't know what the Raiders do. I don't know what they're thinking. What I do think is that the Raiders don't know what they're going to do until it's their turn to draft. I think there's an internal power struggle that is continuously going on inside the Lakers war room. So, it's your guess is as good as mine. But CBS has Rashawn Gary going there at 4. 5, you get to Tampa Bay. And they have Tampa Bay drafting Quinnen Williams. Now, I have expressed how much I do like Quinnen Williams. Okay, he's a great talent, lockdown guy. He's going to have many years in the NFL, and he's going to affect games. But are the Bucs sure about Winston? Like, are you sure about your quarterback position? Because I'm not. I'm not sure about him at all. And you know what? Neither are the Bucs. They brought in Bruce Arians, a bona fide quarterback guru, to see if he's your guy. Like, why wait another year? If I were the Bucs, I wouldn't draft Williams. I wouldn't draft him at all. Maybe he won't even get there. But if it were me, I wouldn't draft Jameis Winston. Or I wouldn't roll with Jameis Winston this year. I would draft Dwayne Haskins 5. He's 70% throughout his short college career. I understand his career is short, and it's a small sample size. But 70%, and now you bring him into the NFL, right? You've got a number 1 wide receiver in Mike Williams. Why don't you give him a quarterback that's going to, commit full time to the team? Winston makes mistakes that children make. In college, he was caught stealing lobster tails, whatever, and he had a couple other scandals I can forgive. But he just got in an argument with an Uber driver anywhere from 10 to 13 months ago. He's immature. I don't need immaturity leading my team. It's not for me. I would roll the dice on Haskins. That's what I would do. I don't know what Tampa Bay is going to do, but I do know that Arians, but I would say that Winston's nobody's guy. All right. Up next is probably my biggest gripe. Okay. The New York Giants are projected to draft Jawaan Taylor. He's an offensive tackle. So when you draft in first in the NFL, you want to have a quarterback. You need a guy to command the troops down the field. Then you get yourself an offensive tackle, a younger guy, a number one to go along with him, and then you get yourself a wide receiver. We talked about that. Is Eli your guy? Is Eli Manning your quarterback of the future? It's a guy 38. How many years does Eli Manning have left? The problem last year was the Giants' offensive line? No. Eli hasn't had good zip on the ball for probably 3 seasons. And everybody wants to sit around and they want to defend him. Oh, Eli just doesn't have time. He just needs more time to throw. We needs weapon. You gave him Beckham. You gave him Sterling Shepard. You gave him Ingram. You gave him Saquon Barkley. Just by naming those players, those are good weapons to go forward, and they should be a productive offense. But they weren't. They weren't productive because your quarterback can't get the ball out of his hands. Right? If you knew you didn't have enough time to get the ball out of your hands, you'd run quicker plays. You'd figure out a certain pace to run. You would do all these things. But Eli doesn't do that. He doesn't provide you a quality arm anymore. Eli Manning is not your answer at 38. The Giants cannot draft an offensive tackle. If they do, Gettleman should be fired. And I don't ask for anyone to lose their job. I know everyone's working very hard. But if you're going to, put the cart before the horse, you're going to suffer another terrible season. The Giants last year, let's rediscuss what they did last year. They drafted the best available player. They took Saquon Barkley. The record at the end of season was 5-11. Last year, the Jets took a franchise quarterback. Hopefully, he's their franchise guy. They finished 4-12. Best available doesn't matter. You need to have effect or best game effect. If you Saquon Barkley cannot affect the game more than a quarterback can. He can't. He can score touchdowns. He can give you yards. He can wear on the defense a little bit. But he doesn't touch the ball and call the plays every play. You need a quarterback, New York. Go draft one. Take Haskins if you like him. Take Daniel Jones out of Duke if you like him. Take Drew Lock out of Missouri if you like him. For God's sakes, take a quarterback this time. Learn from last year's mistakes. Jawaan Taylor might be the best offensive tackle in this draft. He might be the greatest talent. But you should have learned from last year that that's not going to have the greatest effect on wins and losses. Because the best talent that you took last year equaled you one extra win. That's what the net was. You got nothing. You have an aging quarterback in New York. You haven't addressed anything. If you like Josh Rosen, go swap that 6th pick. Give Arizona 1-6 then. And then start molding Rosen. Rosen had a running back last year. He knows how to play nice with running backs. I'm sure he'll learn the offense. He's an integral guy. I just think he needs a fair shot. How about this? He likes to learn the offense. He wants to know nuances. Josh Rosen's a thinker. Is it quite possible that New England gives up they're in the late 20s? Is it quite? No, I'm sorry. They're the last pick in the first round. The last pick in the first round might equal Arizona getting back their third and fifth. Maybe New England. Maybe Tom Brady's successor will be Josh Rosen. I don't know. But I think if the Giants don't draft a quarterback this year, they set the franchise back 5 years. How long do you think that Saquon Barkley's wheels are going to last? Touching the ball anywhere from 25 to 30 times a game. You're going to kill him. And they're going to start zeroing in on your running back if you don't have a guy that can get the ball down the field. Eli's not the answer. Now, I'm not a scout, but I could see when the zip is gone on the arm. Anybody could. It's called the eye test. Scouts know certain interests. They watch footwork. They watch, arm. They watch your body motion. They watch a lot more than we watch. We just watch the games. You can see when it's not working anymore. They've given Eli more than enough time and more than enough weapons. All right, enough on that. Next up, we have the Jaguars. They're going to draft Montez Sweat out of Mississippi State. He's an edge rusher. They let an edge rusher go last year, signed with the Rams. The Jaguars have a plethora of problems, obviously. Otherwise, they wouldn't be this high up in the draft. They solved their quarterback issue, New York. Okay, at least for the time being. They have Nick Foles. He's 30 years old. You get some mileage out of him. What's interesting is Nick Foles hasn't done very well outside of Philly. He's only had one extended trip outside of Philly. And I know he went to the Jeff Fisher always dying offense. But, the Jacksonville Jaguars offense doesn't have a lot of imagination to it either. In fact, that offense would remind you a little bit of what the St. Louis and Los Angeles Rams had, wouldn't it? Like, wouldn't they? If you were to describe Jeff Fisher's offense, wouldn't it sound a little bit like the Jaguars' offense? To me, it would. You got Leonard Fournette. He only knows how to do one thing: run up the middle. Right? You've got a couple wide receivers. There's no names down there. If I were the Jaguars, here's what I do. I know you want to draft an edge rusher, but you have your quarterback now. I would draft an offensive tackle, or how about we give Foles some help? Take a wide receiver. I know he's fallen in the draft, or he's moved his way up through the draft, but he's fallen, through mock drafts. But why not that DK Metcalf guy? He's tall. He's fast. He seems like he could be a number one. He's super physical with 3% body fat. He's a big guy like Alshon Jeffrey was. If you give Nick Foles a big-bodied athlete, he'll just throw lob balls to him and he'll go get them. That's not guaranteeing Metcalf to be a star, but I think you need to give the guy you just wrote a big paycheck to some help. And Leonard Fournette's not going to be your downfield answer. So when they stack the box, 8, 9, 10 guys again, Nick Foles is no burner either. He's not super fast. He operates in the pocket. You give him an offensive tackle or you give him someone to throw to. Not an edge rusher. Right? You don't need a great edge rusher. You've got Ramsey on one side. Right? If you have a lockdown corner, you bring your safety to the other side because you don't need as much help on the other side. Your edge rushers don't matter as much. Again, Montez Sweat could be the best talent at that position. But you don't need that talent. Coach up some of the other guys you have. At 8, Detroit. Please trade down. Please do it. You're going to draft TJ Hawkinson. He's a tight end from Iowa. For the one person that's watching me, try to digest that statement. They're going to draft a tight end in the top 10. Think about that. Tight ends aren't necessarily game changers. I mean, name your tight ends in the past 15 years. You have what? Shannon Sharpe, Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski. Who do you have? You're going to draft a tight end in the top 10? I know you want to give Stafford help, but a tight end? Listen, he could be one of the best tight ends. He could be the next, Jeremy Shockey. Jeremy Shockey didn't go in the top 10. I named Shockey because he was a fun guy when he came in, and he really lit up preseason. But I wouldn't draft. I would draft down, see if you can get somebody that's dying for a player up there. If two quarterbacks go early, let's say Murray goes early and Haskins goes early. Make the Redskins or the Dolphins, make them trade up for a quarterback. Let them get a little afraid, right? Because here's what you have, right? At 10, you have the Denver Broncos, who are super high on Drew Lock. If you have the Denver Broncos, you want to jump them. If you're really high on Drew Lock, the Skins are at 15. The Dolphins are at 13. Those two teams need a quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick's been eating cake with his kids for the past 6 weeks. He looks frumpy. He looks like somebody he looks like the tallest, most out of shape person in the movie Lord of the Rings. That's your starting quarterback right now. If Miami doesn't get a quarterback, they throw their season away. Okay? They should also try to make a move for Josh Rosen because they wanted him last year. So there's potentially 3 landing spots early for Rosen to move to. Later on, you could talk about the Patriots. Okay, but there should be 3 teams that are super interested in him. And that's the Giants, that's the Redskins, and it's the Dolphins. Because the Redskins have a placeholder in Case Keenum, but he's not your long-term solution. So in this mock draft, I'm going to cover 2 more spots. And that's the Dolphins. They have Dwayne Haskins. Apparently, Dwayne Haskins has fallen all the way to 13. The Buccaneers need a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback. You can argue Oakland might be moving off of Carr before they move to Vegas. All these teams need quarterbacks. But Haskins is going to fall to 13. So I'm mocking this mock draft. Okay, the Dolphins are going to take Haskins, which would be great. If he fell there, that's awesome. Miami got a steal. And the Redskins are going to take Daniel Jones. I don't know why John Elway is so high on Drew Lock. Drew Lock, his highest completion percentage in college, 62%. That doesn't meet the 65% bar that you need to enter the NFL. The guy who set that bar, by the way, was Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells says he wants his quarterbacks to complete 65% of passes. I think he was a pretty good, evaluator of talent over the years. Okay, John Elway is not. Remember, John Elway drafted Brock Osweiler because he was the tallest quarterback in the draft. He could play the position. He can't pick it. He loves Drew Lock. And the Redskins love Daniel Jones. I love Daniel Jones because he didn't play with much at Duke. He chose Duke. It's an excellent university. He's probably a smart fella. 6'5", 221. And that's the best accolades I can give him. Because his highest is also 62%. Falls under the threshold. 59% is his average. Again, we're talking the Bills quarterback and Josh Allen. So I don't think they should go that high, but desperate times call for desperate measures. And the Dolphins have nobody, and the Redskins have Case Keenum, and I don't think they have enough talent at wide receiver to get open for Case Keenum. Remember, Case Keenum, when he was in Minnesota, had two of the top wide receivers in the league. You know, he's an efficient quarterback. He's a game manager. And if he has the talent, he can get it done. I'm not going to stand on, the fact that Jamison Crowder is going to be my number one. Darius Geis is coming off an ACL. Where's your offense coming from? Reed, your tight end, who should just lop off his toe or his right foot because it's injured by the third week. I'm not hanging my hat on that. I'm not saying it's going to be any easier for Daniel Jones, but you got to do something. All right, guys, that's my NFL draft mock. Tune in Thursday, 7 o'clock. That's when the draft takes place. Regardless of whether you like the draft or not, it's always entertaining. There's always a surprise. My guess is Oakland's going to be that surprise this year. They seem to be doing everything unconventionally. My name's Jack Neary. That was Shot of Jack. That was your mock draft mock, whatever you would like to call it. Comments, questions, concerns, toss them at me. I don't mind. I'll answer them too. I'm not like those other sports guys that'll ignore all your tweets and all your other concerns. I'll answer every single one of them. We'll see you back here next week.